Rich Shea here, unboxing Boonlake, a game by Alexander Pfister and Capstone Games. Yes, another game where you sail around in circles and there are cows. But I get this game, well, I like Alexander Pfister's games and they're popular with a lot of people. So I picked up a copy. And here we are inside. As you can see, there are a lot of wooden pieces. So I'll just haul out a sample and you can see the different kinds. Hopefully I get them all. Oopsie. You have a few cubes to mark things. You have settlements, your people, houses, not as good as settlements, and somewhere, I guess I'm missing one other thing. Let's see if we can find some. Yes, here we go. Cows. Alright, head down, grazing on the ground, cows. So, I guess there are about 120 pieces in each of the 4 player colors. Red, green, yellow, blue, very traditional that way. These strange looking things are actually double-sided tape pieces that are used to glue the boards together. You actually have to make the double thick boards by doubling up regular thick boards. A bunch of plastic bags and 3 stacks of cards, which, if I can figure out how to open them, there we go. You play cards in the game. They have a cost, which might be money or money and this phase resource, okay, and they're all different. When you play them, some of them have like endgame scoring, and that'll also say this here. Those cow skulls represent victory points. Not sure exactly why I chose that. They also might have instant effects, which in this case is to move you along a track of how you harvest more cards in the future. They have distinctive artwork. Let's see. This one's more gives you an ongoing effect, which is when you buy something called levers, they cost 2 less. You can see here you pay a coin cost and 2 kinds of resource costs, and they have fixed victory points at the end of the game. So acquiring cards is also one of the ways you win. Cards also have 3 times. That's sunset, this is daytime, and this is nighttime. Sometimes there are requirements for when you can play a card, depending on the action you've chosen. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And I think what we'll find is that all the cards are basically, and there are a lot of them, of that nature. You obtain cards randomly. For some reason, the 2 of the sticky tape things seem to have detached themselves from the deck. Fortunately, there are spares, and somehow got attached to the cards. I don't think there are any cards that are specific to the players. No, they're all the same kind of thing. So, shuffle and deal. It's a lot of cards. Then here we are with the instructions, so you can see the exact number. 165 project cards. So now, before we flip over the rest, let's go through the rule book briefly. Make sure you get a good view. Alright, so be careful when you punch it out. There are some parts that look like throwaways that aren't. They're the 100-point markers, some factored things. There's the Boonlake material map, and there's a waterway that you go around. The actions are on these boards. These are the 7 different action tiles, which, well, we'll get to how that works. You pick one, slide the rest up so they get sort of randomized. And if you pick one that was recently chosen, you might actually have to pay a point penalty. They're vases, which is the not coin resource. The other resources are virtual. The cards, building tiles will go on the map, some solo game things, a first player marker, markers for the levers, and 16 scoring tiles, which I believe 4 will be in each game. So the game scoring will be slightly different. Players have player boards. The player boards will have spaces that have houses, settlements, and cattle, and you clear them off, some things happen, as well as the actions on the board. You'll also have a pair of boats, a player marker. Oh yeah, I didn't do that. Boats and ships should also be in here somewhere. There's just not as many. Well, we'll get those out later. 100-point markers and some scoring markers, because some of the scoring is player specific. You set up the game by putting the action tiles out, the piles of things. Players get resources. The map gets set up. It has 4 different regions with names. The player boards are set up with pieces put on them. There are a couple of fixed slots for inhabitants. Place your ranch where you place your loose inhabitants, and then there are other inhabitants you don't have yet. You also have the ship that moves around on the board, the boats that move back and forth under your resources here, and resource markers to show how many of each resource you can have available. Okay, production sites, that's what they're called. During the course of the game, you choose one of the action tiles and do what it says. There'll be a first part, and it has a time that action slot is. Then, so you can play a card of the corresponding kind, or you can discard a card for 2 coins. Then there's an action you can take. Then there's a shared action, which you may or may not be able to do yourself. It depends on which one of the things you chose, but then the other players may do the same thing. Then you have to move your ship, which might give you a reward, but also at certain times it will trigger scoring and the end of the round. Sort of like in Maracaibo, or for that matter, Great Western Trail, when somebody gets to the end, it has an effect on the rest of the board game. Okay. Then you push the action strips together and put the one you used on the bottom, making it available. So the different effects are you can play a card and they have a cost. They might have a time frame. You might need resources. The resources are available from the top of your card. You'll have production sites that produce 1 or 2 of a given resource, and you'll have your 2 little boats that you can move either downstream for free or upstream for money, and where each of them is placed produces one of the corresponding resource of, what are they, like clay-like stuff, rocks, blue things, and whatever the resource is. Okay, when you buy a card, they might have an immediate effect that's executed, an effect that happens at the end of the game only, that'll be about victory points, and a permanent effect for the whole game, which might be a discount or a production or something. Instead of playing a card, you can score on special projects. There's going to be 4 of those at the bottom of the board. They are special projects on top, scoring on the bottom. The special project, each player can execute it, I believe, only once. If you execute the special project that you selected, you get double the victory points for that. Only perform each of the special projects. They'll have a space above it for the players' inhabitants that are part of the cost during the game. Explore lets you put tiles out on the board, okay, which also increases your production, and you may get a reward. Okay. Develop lets you put inhabitants or houses. Well, put inhabitants out. Upgrade lets you turn an inhabitant into a house, or a house into a settlement, paying the appropriate costs, meeting the requirements. Okay. When you finish a row, empty a row on your player board, you get a bonus for that. Then there are other actions. Pioneer, that's play a card or discard a card for 2. The action tiles. Settle, which, well, I'm not going to go through them all. Cattle breeding, putting cattle out on the board, which is how you clear cattle. Someone has to place a pasture, it may be you, and then people can, including you, can place cattle on there. When you put out a space, you don't own it. You probably have first crack at it. And then one of the actions is to score a region. And hiring more people, of course. You have to get more people out of the pool into your ranch, because from your ranch they're going to go to other players. And progress is you get levers, which you place on spaces on your player board. Those spaces give you special benefits that you can usually use. The builder is a little bit different. You get coins, then you can play a coin or play a card or draw 2 cards. And after that, all the other players can play a card or discard it for 2 coins. Clearly, one of the things that happens in the game is you end up with cards you don't intend to build, and you want to be able to discard them. Then there's interim scoring and final scoring. Scoring happens 4 times during the game. Partway through the first time around the river, at the end of the first time around the river, then you go back to the beginning of the river, and you go around again with an interim scoring, and then the final scoring. So there's rules on how you score, and it depends on the bottom of the things that were put out. Plus, of course, in the final scoring, you also get... So the interim scoring is all about the scoring at the bottom of the page, bottom of the map that people selected. But the final scoring gives you points for levers, victory points for your cards, victory points for emptying things off of your player board, and that's all. Leftover coins and cards don't do anything, so get rid of them all. There's a solo mode, an overview of symbols, card effects, a lot of that. They're pretty straightforward. The iconography's pretty clear. Lever effects, it's a little more complicated. The way you use those, they get to use them once for each set of interim scoring, then they reset. Okay, but there's clear explanations how the scoring tiles work. The scoring tiles also, you have to look at some of them because some of them have 2 regions. Okay, to successfully score, you have to have the top number of presences in one of the 2 regions and the bottom number in the other region. Okay, so those are very specific ones. Others are at least a marker at least at a certain place. Okay, so only this first category is a little weird. Building tiles might have a cost or they might have a benefit. Some other effects, and how to put together your double layer player board. Make sure that you don't lose the pieces that you punch out. Fold it over and use the sticky pieces to tack the top down. I imagine if you get into a problem, you could just use double-sided tape. So here's one of the player boards with the other pieces not punched out. Okay, the pieces that you need to keep are these production building pieces, which could be +1 on one side, +2 on the other side. Okay, when all the pieces are punched out, you're going to tape that to that with the little dots, and then these will have openings. The levers go in here and show the benefits, and when you clear spaces, you can see what happens here. And this is where your resource production is going to go, and your little boats will slide up and down with the spaces that will be cleared out so they don't slide around when you open that. On the back is information for the solo mode. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these. The the other pieces that we need here, the scoring tiles, the special projects here, the interim scoring things here, player markers that go underneath these to show, or I think they go underneath to show who selected each one, because for special projects you get double bonus points if it's the thing you selected. Some coins, the levers. I think this is a solo mode thing. First player marker. Coins and 100 player markers. I'm not sure. I think this is another thing that has to get folded over. Oh yes, this is going to be folded over like this and taped down also, because it's going to be the place where you use the action selection tiles. Here's territories, pastures, more money. Okay. Here we see the actual the 7 action selection things. More of the scoring and other things. Vases, more money. Pastures, places you can settle. And it just keeps coming. And I think these are related to the solo mode as well, which I didn't spend time on. And now the actual player board. Which has around the edge points. Here's tracks. These are tracks for, this is the money track, your money income track, which you move advanced down to increase the amount of money you get at the end of each interim round, and with maybe picking up a worker or 3 cards when you pass certain spaces, victory points. This is the card resource collection track. These are the 3 regions: New Hope, Southern, Boonlake, and Unknown up here, with spaces that you can build on, and they have different colors so you can tell them apart. The 4 selected tiles go here, spaces up here for each person to mark who selected it. The green player puts their selection here, the yellow player there, the red player there, the blue player there. If there aren't 4 players in the game, you still select 4 tiles. It's just that each player will only own 1 of the 4. Or not really own, have the double bonus for 1 of the 4. Well, that's the game. I've heard, I haven't played it yet, that it does take a while to play. I think, like a lot of Pfister games, or maybe less like some of them, you're going to have to think a little bit about what a strategy would be for you, and then work on it. But, I mean, looking at the components myself, it seems relatively straightforward. But with this giant pile of cards, and you start with, I think, 6, it's going to give you some ideas on what to do, but it might not be straightforward how you accomplish that. And it looks like other games, you might start off a little bit slow, and then my guess is the game accelerates quickly, and you don't want to be left behind. I've also heard it's a little bit unforgiving, but I think that's just a matter of playing it once or twice. It looks to me like once you start building a resource and card and money generating engines, then you just hope to ride those, and that might involve flushing cards more than you'd like. So I'm looking forward to giving it a play very soon. Thanks for watching. Hope you're all doing well and getting a chance to play some games. Bye for now.